Good evening. Welcome to all of you that are here with us this evening. I will call the meeting of the Curriculum and Instruction Committee to order. Okay, first on the list, we have an opportunity for, well, first of all, has the meeting been posted?
Yes.
Okay. Then, do we have an opportunity for any citizens that are here that would like to speak with us? So please come forward. Okay. Mr. Reese? Is the microphone on, Paul?
I have no idea.
Just turn it on, the blue light.
There, now it is, I guess. Hi, I'm Paul Reese. First off, I want to thank, I've talked to a bunch of you this past week or so, and I want to thank you all for your time. It was nice talking to you. Mr. McCaffrey's the only one I couldn't get a hold of. Your phone number's wrong on the website, so otherwise I would have.
Yeah, it should have been updated.
Yeah, otherwise I don't want to get a hold of you. And I also want to thank Dee Garcia for the time that she spent with me talking and listening to me ramble. So anyhow, I want to talk a little bit about the global education course that's being talked about tonight. And a couple things about it was, after I was talking to Dee, it came up, how fluid the course is, that kids can study, let's say, something on North Korea, and one could study Brexit and do papers on this, and, wherever their interest went, it could be kind of fluid to where they want to go with it. And I just wondered how you grade something like that. How is something so fluid graded and judged when there's nothing to compare from or to, and how they're getting their information. The other thing was the wisdom that's in looking at things that you're not really interested in. There's a lot of things that I learned in school and that I wasn't really interested in. One thing that jumped out to me is, in my senior year, I had to do a debate in econ on nuclear proliferation. And my econ teacher grabbed me aside and said, "I want you to oppose it." I said, "I don't want to be on that side." And he's like, "I want you to be," because I knew my feelings on things. He goes, "I really want you to be, and you'll learn something from this." And I did it, and I learned a lot. And I learned a lot, not just about this subject, but about debating in itself, how it worked. I learned how to manipulate things, how things are manipulated. I talked about ICBMs rather than warheads, because it suited my side of the argument. And so it was a lot learned in talking about something that I didn't necessarily agree with, and a way to look at something. And, this course is about, there's social studies in this, and I've talked to you, I don't want to babble on about this, but I've talked to you about, my views of language. I think it's great. I think that the history of languages is fascinating, and I wish it would be studied and pointed out how, just how interpretation works, rather than, interpretation and translation, the difference between the two, and how it works when you interpret something. Anyways, I know I've talked long enough, and I thank you for your time tonight. And
That's okay. Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to the board? Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Reese. All right, moving forward then, we have a Bright Lights tonight. Looking forward to having teachers come forward and introduce them. I'll do that next.
All right, I would love to introduce our front row guests. I think we have the principals here as well, so just come on, you're flying solo tonight. All right, Mr. Murray, come on up and introduce who you have with us tonight.
Just grab some extra chairs. Good evening, school board. Thank you for having us this evening. We
Welcome.
are greatly appreciative.
Welcome, Mr. Murray, and et cetera.
Thank you. This evening, we're going to speak about the Youth Advisory Council with our youth advisory, really advisors, the students from our school district, anywhere from STEM to West to North, and then former STEM students as well that still represent this amazing program. So we have Ellie Arado, Chrissy Mins, Annika Bachelinater, Close? Luke Matthew and Aiden Anderson. And so we're going to go through a similar slideshow as last year, and it's just going to sort of walk you through the program model, the purpose, the mission, the vision, and what they've gained from it, and then how they've really brought their focal points to school and their view on school from this day forward, really how it impacted their learning. So I'm going to bring up on the screen a short PowerPoint, very short. It's only about 6-7 slides, and they're really going to do the talking, so I'll probably hand the mic over to them at this point.
The Youth Advisory Council is a committee of people dedicated to promoting personalized learning throughout many communities and schools, especially by planning an event called the Youth Summit. The Youth Summit is a day planned out from early in the morning to late in the afternoon that teaches kids and adults about personalized learning throughout the Midwest. The mission is to teach others about personalized learning. It's also to implement personalized learning in more schools and scale this critical movement in the school district of Waukesha. It is also to improve the quality of students' experiences in school with self-advocacy, student agency, and personalized learning tools.
So in the Youth Advisory Council, there are many kids from all different school districts in southeastern Wisconsin. And these student leaders come together and they discuss the importance of knowing about your education, number one, and then also about personalized learning in itself, which is basically an education tailored to you. So however you learn best, your teachers will work with you and make sure that you're getting the education that will ensure you're the most successful you can be in school. And we share ideas, we come together, and we also plan events where, as Aiden was saying, teachers and students convene to learn about personalized learning, and we try to spread the word about it so that it can be more prominent in other schools as well as our own.
So on this slide, you can see that there's two different pictures, and these are from events that the Youth Advisory Council has participated in and helped plan. So this one in particular was took place in downtown Milwaukee, and a few of us here are in those pictures and helped plan and run different sessions. And this one was with mostly teachers, and we taught them kind of what we've learned in the Youth Advisory Council and what we like to focus on, what we would want in a school to help them understand how they might want to build different programs or how they might want to run different curriculums as well. So in one of the pictures you can see that there's like a bigger screen and there's students who are running the beginning of the session. So we planned out a lot of different things that might teach you about our schools and how we would want to change them, not just how they are right now. And then there's other sessions like the other picture where there's smaller breakout sessions that can help you learn about different parts of the honeycomb, like you can see in that picture as well.
And then we did different activities. Oh, can you go ahead? We did different activities with the administrators as well. So like me, Annika, and Luke did the opening, and we had one activity where we had them all make a paper snowflake, and then they all unfolded it, and we said, this is kind of an example of personalized learning in which every person is different in the way that they learn, and we used it as a comparison to demonstrate the importance of that.
Yeah, really it was just like a chance for us to get to like talk about what we enjoy most about personalized learning and how it really like helps us as learners.
I think the snowflake activity that Ellie talked about really impacted the educators that we were presenting to because it allowed them to really think about what they would have wanted when they were students and how personalized learning could have affected their lives in a positive way. So yeah, the Youth Advisory Council does a lot of great things.
Some benefits that we've gained from being a part of the council and meeting other student leaders is talking about the parts of our learning with other students and comparing our environments as learners with theirs and seeing how we can bring other ideas into our schools as well that they've already implemented. So that's impacted our schools in a positive way as well.
Yeah, kind of what Ellie was saying too is that the way that we've kind of learned might be different than a lot of other schools, and I haven't really been to a lot of other schools besides STEM since my elementary years. So it's interesting for me to see other people across the school districts and across Wisconsin and meet them and see how their ideas are different than mine and how maybe they want to be in a school like mine. So it kind of helps me appreciate what I have and also ways that I can help other people kind of get to where I am as well.
A benefit I also found that I gained from experiences was kind of leadership, because I was able to, from the Youth Advisory Council, I was able to go to some of my teachers and try to implement some of the tools that you can find on the Honeycomb.
And what really helps with our personalized learning programs is that as students get older and get closer to graduating high school, there are parts of the programs designed to help us figure out what we want to do with our future. Like with our Waukesha North's Inspire program for the juniors and seniors, we have our Inspire Field experience, where we find someone in the community that has a job similar to the ones that we are interested in now and kind of get to shadow them and learn more about what they do. And I know Pewaukee High has their program too, where students interested in biomedical stuff, they get to go to hospitals and volunteer there.
I think also one major way this can impact us is it gives us a real leadership role, which you can take on with you even as you apply for colleges in the future and things like that. So really the Youth Advisory Council is a way for us to really represent our leadership and show what we do in our daily lives, really.
And I guess before I was a part of the Youth Advisory Council, I had no idea about, I was in a really great program at STEM, but I had no idea about the way I was being taught. I had no idea about the structure of my education or anything like that. And that was really powerful for me as a learner to understand that, and it gave me the opportunity to better my experience.
Yeah, so this also kind of goes a little bit with what Ellie was just previously saying. So we participated and planned different things like the summits, but a lot of it is helping some teachers look at ways that students need to learn differently. Not every student learns the same, like we've been saying at the one summit that we planned. That's an activity we did because we wanted to show that not all students learn the same. So a lot of the different things that we've learned or that we've participated in, we've kind of translated out into the world and trying to translate it out to teachers or students or parents, because we think it's important to show them that not everybody learns the same, and that if they were given the opportunity when they were younger, what would they do? Because that kind of brings out how they would learn differently. So when we do different things like the youth summit or the summit that we did, or the convening that we did at the end of October, it kind of helps out with that idea as well.
I agree, and I think she explained it really well.
I came from STEM, and I went to a more traditional high school, and I think one of the main things that I learned from transitioning is that I've seen kids be extremely successful in both environments, and I've seen kids be not successful in both environments. And I think the biggest part of personalized learning is finding out which environment is right for you. And I think a lot of families don't understand that just because one student is successful in a certain environment does not mean all students are, and that's a big aspect of personalized learning and the power it has.
So now that we've explained what we do, usually if you guys have any questions for us or you have any comments, you can share them with us right now.
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Baumgart.
Yeah, this is very interesting. Thank you. A couple questions. First one is just simply, was the audience students? Was the audience students and teachers? Or who was your audience at this session?
Okay, so the last session that you saw the pictures of, that one was mostly all teachers. But we
Okay.
do the youth summit, that's usually later in the spring, which has students and teachers, and that's usually like what we were saying before, people from around the Midwest region as well. But sometimes there's different parents that can
Okay. The reason I ask, it leads to the next question, and that is, you know, Waukesha's done a very good job with personalized learning and kind of moving ahead on it. What was your reaction to sharing our secrets and good news with other districts, you know? Is that a competitive thing? How do you feel about that?
So one of the people I work with a lot in the Youth Advisory Council is from the West Allis School District, and she's one of the only people from that school district in the council. So it's really interesting to see how her perspective is so different than my perspective, and kind of how like she does her work and like how she even works in the council is a little bit different because I'm more not laid back, but like I have a different view on things. So when we work together, it's really interesting to get both perspectives on that idea, and when we share it out with people at the summits, it's always interesting to see how they never really thought of it the same way. And even at this past convening that we did, some of the teachers like didn't really hear of having the student choose their own literacy inquiry and then do the curriculum based on that, or not just reading a classic novel, but maybe having your own writing piece that's similar to it and then going back and editing it based on something that you've read. So when you see somebody else's reaction, it kind of allows you to know how to elaborate on what you've talked about already, and also like know how they might want to be as a learner, which can help them plan their curriculum.
So it didn't bother you that we were ahead of them and sharing our secrets with them? Good. That's the way it should come out. Did you want to add to that?
No, I totally understand what you're saying. I guess a lot of the other districts are not as, I guess, have not progressed as far as
Yes.
in personalized learning as the school district. So that's something we're very grateful to have. But it is interesting to see other school districts' views on personalized learning because they haven't necessarily been exposed to it for as long of a time as we have, and seeing their reactions to what we do and hearing about, because even they have ideas that we haven't thought of as well. So that's interesting too.
It points out that sometimes competition isn't the best way for everybody to win. Sometimes what you've shown us is it's possible for everybody to be winning in this thing, and I applaud you on that. Thank you.
Manager.
Thank you. Would you tell me your name? Is it Ellie?
Ellie, yeah.
Ellie,
Yep.
okay, a little mixture. Ellie, when you started, you said personalized learning is an education that's tailored to you. And I thought that is the perfect statement from the horse's mouth, from you, from the mouths of babes, that we've been trying to understand. I mean, we get bits and pieces of it, but because we're not in the classroom, it's hard for us to really get a grasp and just simplify it. and you just did today. That was perfect, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And then another thing for you, Ellie, in my own family, we have 3 kids, and one started out in a traditional school and then went to STEM and then went back to traditional type of environment. I mean, they're all totally different. Some have just been in STEM the whole time, and to see what they find helpful in their classes or the ones that they really thrive in, they're completely different, same family, and now you've got a whole county of different families, you know? So
Yeah.
it's impressive that you know that at your age, and then that brings me to, I want to know your ages because, what is your name again?
Annika?
Annika, you were talking about job shadowing, and it made me think, are you close to graduation? And if you are, what do you guys want to do? So if you can tell me what school you went to or what school you're in now and your grade, and then if you're close to graduating, what career you're thinking of.
Okay. I went to the Waukesha STEM Academy, and now I go to Catholic Memorial. I'm a freshman this year.
I'm Chrissy. I currently attend Waukesha STEM Academy, and I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Aiden. I go to Waukesha West High School, and I am a freshman.
I'm Annika. I am a junior and I go to Waukesha North High School.
I'm Luke. I'm a sophomore at Waukesha North High School. And in the future, I think I'd want to major in biochem.
I think my first choice would be to go into musical theater, but the success rate for that isn't always like really reliable. And so I would like to also go into astrobiology.
Whatever that is. Wow.
And that's okay if you guys aren't decided yet. You have a little time. And the last thing I wanted to say was just that I'm so proud that we sent you guys, that you actually had been chosen for who you are and your character and how far you've come, the way you present yourselves. And so I'm thankful that we were represented very well by you. So thank you.
Well, what a wonderful opportunity you students have had for unique learning and unique learning experiences. And it sounds to me like, it was just geared exactly for what your needs are. Is that correct? Okay. Would one of you tell me what personalized learning looks like for you in one of your classes? Or in all of your classes? Or in your school day?
So for me, I go to STEM, and a lot of it, basically almost all my classes, have at least some aspects of personalized learning. And I would say, besides STEAM, one of the biggest classes that I have would be math, because I'm currently in accelerated math, so I'm doing geometry, but I'm also trying to finish it within the next month or two so I can get on to Algebra 2 and finish it by the end of the year or into the summer. And it's really tailored to me, like personalized learning, because when I started at STEM, I was doing 6th, 7th, and 8th all in 1 year. The curriculum merged, and then I kind of did algebra really quickly because it was easier for me, and then I started geometry early. So I think one of the best things, and one of the things we talk about a lot, the honeycomb. So having the customized learning path for me was probably one of the most impactful parts of my STEM career. And then as well as not just in math, but also in projects like STEAM, where you get to really have interest-based, like you get to choose based on your interest, because it's so much more impactful for me if I'm doing a class that I enjoy or that I want to learn about. And I think that curriculum is always important, even if like sometimes you have to do certain projects because you have to meet the curriculum. But since we have different projects like student proposal where you get to really choose your inquiry, then it's based on you, and you can still meet all the goals along the way. But if I want to do a project on engineering, or if I'm totally taking a different route and doing a project on the movie industry, it's all really tailored to you. So if you want to learn about something, we have the opportunity to learn about it.
Mr. Murray, is this more a process than a product?
It's a great question. Excuse me, yeah, I definitely would say it is a process.
Right.
The products are great, but the process is tenfold what we benefit from as a student collective.
Yeah.
I think the largest thing too is the reflective piece, and stepping back at the end and realizing failing forward and what didn't work almost is more important than what did work. And I think that's where even in Inspire West, any of our high schools, any of our elementary and middle, that's the biggest benefit that we're seeing right now is stepping back and just that bird's eye view and saying, what could we do differently next time in the real world setting? And always talking about not just masters of content, but just are they experts in context? Could I throw them into the world today, and could they do it in another place, not just our school, not just in the classroom, and not just talk about it tonight? Could they actually produce in a multi-environment type of setting? So I think that's the biggest benefit right now.
It is. It is. Very good. Ms. Franishek?
Okay, two more things. We would love for you to come back someday, years down the road, maybe you're in college, maybe you're in your careers, and just tell us how you're doing. And I mean, I can't imagine what's going to come out of your mouths then for the age that you are and as mature as you are. Okay, that was the first thing. And then, not that I would still be here in like 10 years, but anyways, just come back. And then the second thing is, I want to hear that one at least of you wants to be a teacher, because you know about learning right now. And I think that when teachers want to discover those different ways of learning, I mean, to know it so soon, I think that you would make remarkable teachers. So I want to hear at least one of you guys come back. And to this school, promise that you're
Heard
going to
that,
be
won't
here.
come back if,
Not a
Come back
teacher.
unless you're going to teach you.
she'll get you.
Good luck in whatever you do.
Mr. Murray, I would assume that at the STEM schools, you have a professional development very specific to personalized learning. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, we do a lot with the Institute, but also through our district with Jody, with Joe, with Dan and Melissa.
Yes.
I really think the opportunities are abound. A bit of autonomy is helpful, and then definitely just the personalized learning for our staff too. I think the thing we've found is we can't provide for our students what we don't also provide for our staff.
Makes sense.
And so it's an interesting approach sometimes, because you want to make sure you have all your bases covered, but you also have to know math may be different than lit, than science, than project-based learning folks, and so making sure, again, back to your question about the process and knowing what the big background pieces are, the big rocks, and looking at, learner profile, learner pathways, and proficiency-based progress. It's great to know that and to speak that language, but if you don't own it and understand the why, it doesn't really matter, I don't think. And so our staff, and I think the staff of all the schools that are represented tonight, understand the why well before the what. So again, back to the process pieces, always the design and the intentional, sort of the future of what that PD is surrounding, so.
Okay. Very impressive. What a wonderful way to learn. When it's, just based solely on your personal needs, it's phenomenal. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Murray, for bringing these wonderful students before us. It makes me excited about you coming out of the school district of Waukesha with such a wonderful background. So thank you very much for being with us tonight and sharing your story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, as they're going back to the chairs, we have to have approval of minutes. Forgot to do that, I always do.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from the November 7th, 2017 meeting. All those in favor, respond by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, now we can get into the agenda under action items. Approval of middle school global education course. Jody, take us into that, please.
Okay, Maria and the same similar team, teacher team is gonna present to you. Again, this is the second reading. Shouldn't be any new information for you today. It came as information last month. We're looking for approval of the course this evening. So thanks for coming back again.
Yes, thank you so much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
We're here seeking approval for our course, but before we start that, I would love to thank Mr. Reese for being here today and bringing up his concerns and questions, all wonderful questions, and the reason actually why we created a course such as this one, because we want to ensure that we provide students with the opportunity to develop those skills and not just learn a content, as he shared his experience about not having to teacher asking him to debate a question that he had in his content. So this is the reason we're here, and if nothing else, as proof, the children that were just here, those are the skills that we want to see in all of our students from our district of Waukesha. So you have all this information in front of you, and so we're here to seek the course approval, and I'm going to kind of remind us of what the purpose of this course is and some of the outcomes as well. And please, throughout, feel free to stop and ask questions, or if you have any concerns, we're here. I'll be focusing on information on the course and the design of the course, the outcomes of the course, and then we have Jennifer Yord, who is a teacher, current teacher at STEM, who is going to go a little bit more into some of the standards and the inquiry-based method that we'll be using to engage students with this course. So this course is designed to help students engage with the world and participate with global issues, whether it's local, regional, or globally. It's not language specific, but we hope one of the outcomes of this course is that we know that if we provide students with the opportunity to study the world, that might entice them to want to learn more, including languages. We want to make sure that they have that opportunity to really engage in many ways with issues, whether current or past issues, so they can really understand the issues deeply and be able to take action or propose possible solutions. It is built upon 4 pillars of inquiry that will allow students to demonstrate this competency, global competency. In your packet, after the global perspective continuum that looks kind of like this, there's a conceptual framework that kind of puts it all into a really nice picture if you want to visit that right now. It outlines our 4 pillars of on which this course is built upon. One of them, the first one, is investigating the world, which is definitely helping students students will be able to frame a significant problem and conduct a well-crafted, age-appropriate research. And I want to reiterate that teachers are going to be facilitators, and as you can tell, it's a big portion of personalized learning. As you saw earlier with our students, they're able to be self-directed, self-motivated. It definitely provides a lot of benefit for their growth and understanding. Another pillar is recognized perspective, which is definitely one of the issues that Mr. Reese brought up tonight. Make sure that our students are able to do that and articulate and express those perspectives thoughtfully but respectfully, around, because we know we have different, lots of mature issues in our current world, but ensuring that the teacher is that facilitator and is there to help craft and identify those researchable questions that students are able to engage with. The next one, the 3rd pillar of our framework, is communicate ideas. Definitely be able to do that, and we want students to be able to bridge those ideas, whether it's geographically, linguistically, or ideologically, and be able to break those barriers, those cultural barriers that we see in our community now. And ultimately be able to take action. We want them to engage with the world and see themselves as part of that and players and be able to participate in our world and some of the issues.
So in thinking of kind of the development of this course, we recognize that it's a course where the syllabus would be fluid, depending on current issues that are going around, but the skills and the proficiencies that we'd be looking for students to develop in this course This would be a course within the World Language Department, and it would address the Waukesha World Language Learning Targets, which you see it include the reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills. So students would be addressing all of those skills while not in a foreign language in English, but they would, the course would also encompass the ACTFL, the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Language, their World Language 5 Cs, which include communication, making connections, cultures, comparisons, and communities. And those 5 Cs are something that aren't often really robustly addressed in a strictly world language class. So this would, of course, would give the opportunity to really dive deeper into those skills and proficiencies. The course would be developed as an inquiry-based model. We know that this is a model that helps to build interpersonal and collaborative skills for students being able to work with their peers around topics that may be of mutual interest, validates their learning experience for students that perhaps want to investigate issues that might be not addressed through a region that's currently offered as a world language offering. And we know that inquiry-based learning is also going to lead to a better long-term retention of information because it is student-directed. It is something that they are pursuing topics that are of their own interest and passions. So the general framework of the course would be that students would develop a framework around a significant issue, conduct age-appropriate, relevant research around that issue, be able to develop their own perspective and address that, and also be able to recognize alternative perspectives and address those. And then to also hopefully address and be able to engage with the world. Bring in community members or even people from around the world that might be able to engage with them and discuss issues that are relevant to them.
One more thing, I think that it's also important to know that this is an entryway for other groups to come in and feel validated, that maybe come from disadvantaged groups that maybe they don't see themselves in our current curriculum or traditional curriculum. They bring in their own perspective, which is going to be valued because this is what the course is built upon, value in multiple perspectives. So it's an entry point for all students to be able to engage and feel like they have something to contribute and what they say is honored.
Thank you, Marie. I also want to add, for the board's attention, you're used to seeing School District of Waukesha course syllabi over the years that follow the, understanding by design format with usually supplement materials. I'll tell you, this is the first time you're seeing this Appendix A, which is the Curricular Review Report.
Yes.
And I want to make note that with the last year, you approving the curriculum design process for the School District of Waukesha, we now have, and this is the first team, I just want to commend Maria, Dee, and Jennifer and the team. This is a very extensive review.
Absolutely.
Both historical review, literature, you can see A through what they went through to submit to you. So you'll be seeing, moving forward, these reports in different phases as we bring forward curriculum for your approval. So just want to make note of that.
Thank you so much, Jody, for adding that. I think, if you want to take some time and look at the Global Perspective Continuum, Jennifer and I, indeed, really were very intentional and wanting to make sure that it was all about developing a skill around these 4 pillars of inquiry and to develop that global perspective. So if you look at the development of the skill, I know I want to get back to Mr. Reese's comments about how do you grade something like that? How do you grade students' perspective? So this is a very well-defined skill-based course that is going to allow us to assess the students where they are, meet them where they are, and continue to develop those skills as they move on through their grade levels.
Mr. Baumgart.
I'm very interested in this course, and I think it's got some really positive outlooks. I've got 2 or 3 points I just want to discuss. One of them is just a simple observation. because it confused a number of people over the last week.
Sure.
And that is, take the sentence, students can develop and put into action response to local, regional, and global issues. That's confusing to people. They're not going to be able to solve problems in the Mideast and so on.
No.
So you need to help translate that into what you really mean when it's talk about solving and taking action on a problem.
So one of the goals of this course is for students to be able to see that what commonalities do we share with other parts of the world in terms of their regional problems. Let's say access to water from region to region, be able to understand what contributes to that and be able to analyze and synthesize that in a way that they are able to understand it deeply, but also see different perspectives of that need and be able to propose a solution. Not that they're going to take action, but
Up there. That's something.
Propose a solution.
That's the
Okay.
point.
Yeah.
No, I think we have to have it understood. I'm not saying you have to change anything, but it has to be understood. They're going to develop a conceptual
Yes.
step in action, maybe, but please don't make anybody believe that they're going to go over there and solve the problems in Syria or anything like that. Okay, we get it. I just wanted to make that point.
Okay.
That observation came up in more than one places over the conversation we've had. Now, I have two other questions that were addressed to me today by another board member that I was not able to answer. One is, and this also came up several times, this course, I understand it's in the World Languages program, but it also appears heavily as a social studies type course. And the question is quite simply, can the credits be translated, or not translated?
Transfer.
Can they get credit on either side of it, as a World Languages course or as a social studies course? I do not know the answer to that. I'm asking it. Maybe you
No.
don't have it either, and we can work on that in the future.
We can come back with a response, but, you know, if you were pressed me for an answer right now, I could tell you it's just a world language course, and it would be under the world language umbrella, and that would be the course, the credit that the student would be earning under the world language. It does seem like it's an integrated way of looking, and that's the benefit of this course, that we're integrating the social studies view, but it is under the umbrella. Oh, maybe.
I didn't want to steal away
That's
because we have
how
a
we get
sleeping
you.
babe in the back. This is a middle school level course, so this is not a course that would receive any kind of credit at a high school level. So while it's underneath the umbrella and the auspices of world languages, it really seeks to address the 5 C's of world language, which ironically are the same 5 C's of social studies, which is the communication, the culture, the communities, and all of the other ones that Jennifer alluded to. So yes, it is a world language course, but it is not addressing linguistics. And linguistics is what is addressed in our Spanish and French and our German levels 1 through et cetera. And usually at the expense of the other 5 C's, which make the world language worth learning sometimes. So it's just another pathway for a student to enter into, maybe I am a language learner, maybe these interests I have in changing the world, working in my community will lead to some other engagement in longer term world language learning.
The other question, is this course going to be taught in English or taught in Spanish or taught in both?
English.
Only in English, okay. And with that, because this is an action item, I would like to move for approval of this course.
I have a question still.
You'll get a chance. You just need a second. And then-
Second.
Okay. Now, Ms. Ranichek, discussion.
They have the motion before
we
you
start talking.
discussion.
Yeah.
So you're on.
You're on.
Oh, thanks. So I had a couple questions as well. So my kids have been in the Saratoga STEM, and I've been in with Mrs. Lambert to talk about different places I've gone and to talk with the kids about things. So I understand you'd bring in community members, whether they're from those countries or whether they visited and what have they learned and experiences they can bring back for the kids. So I get that part, but there's a couple things that kind of have jumped out at me. When you talk about the curriculum, how can I say this? So how are they going to, let me look at, 1 second. Okay. I was going through a classroom once and I heard basically a teacher just showing videos about how it was a very political perspective to the kids. And then they were supposed to then take that and then debate it. But that teacher had given the kids the videos he wanted to show them, instead of letting the kids look at multiple different views and different resources, whether it was on their own on their iPads or watching a video or hearing from other people from those situations. So to just give someone the reins to just create a curriculum and to just say, here, this is what you're going to learn. It's hard to be able to say yes to that when I don't exactly know where you're going to gather it all from or where the kids are actually going to gather it themselves. But on the times that I've been into this course, the inspiration for this, I believe, was from Jenny's class. Was it? I totally get that picture. But then there's just some things like when Bill said, taking action. Well, they're in middle school. What can they do? Or like when it says utilizing multiple resources, like what? What are those resources?
So happy you asked this question. We are so very, very fortunate to employ library media specialists who have been so fantastic in providing a whole entire page of resources, which include World Book Online, Encyclopedia Britannica, Brain Pop, you name it. And when we reach out to these people and we say, you know what, we need a database that addresses these things with peer-reviewed research, they find things for us all of the time. One of the key distinctions between elementary language arts and social studies and middle school language arts and social studies is the key skill that we need to begin to address credible resources and biases in anything. I think we can readily admit that it's very difficult to find a resource and text which has no one's bias. But the study of addressing the different perspectives, we may read an article by a group. We will read other articles by different groups on the same issues. The purpose is to get students to realize that there are different funds of knowledge out there, different perspectives, and they may have their own, which is completely separate to that as well. That's a skill that is hit pretty hard in middle school. I was in a language arts classroom in a 6th grade just the other week, and they were studying about courageous heroes in the community. And the first thing a child said to me in actually Miss Lambert's language arts classroom at Les Paul was, our teacher gave us a mini lesson on how to determine credible resources. The first thing I asked her, what are you learning? That's what she said. I'm learning to determine what is credible and what is not credible. And the first thing that came to mind, and I'm not dodging Wikipedia, was that she didn't feel like that was a good place to start, and that in fact she's no longer Googling anything, that she goes to our library media specialist resources where they have up-to-date, like almost to the day, research through the encyclopedia. So they're not old books on stacks, they are up-to-date resources. They all have citations within them that students can access and resource. So it's a safe method. Will children always access it? I don't believe that they will. Our kids outside of school, as we all know, are Googling just about everything or YouTubing or whatever they're doing. The biggest skill that we can equip them with is knowing how to make judgment and how to think critically and how to ask questions when someone presents them with the truth. And this course, I think, is especially poised to help kids to learn to do that. Any kid would be fortunate to be able to be in Ms. Yord's current class doing these things. Even if it is an alternative to, say, French 1 or Spanish 1. It's just a different path that may end to the same goal.
How did this course come about, Dee?
Well, the honest truth is that Jenny Lambert over at STEM had been working to ensure that every child had access to Spanish language learning from a world language perspective.
Yes.
But they have it in a way where there are patterns of learning where they go a couple of weeks in Spanish, then they would go a couple of weeks in an integrated course like this, in which Ms. Lambert was collaborating with the business ed teacher, the art teacher, through those STEAM classes you heard the students talk about. And through those collaborations, they began to think, well, who do you know in business who is doing this there? How can we talk to them? Who do you know working in water science there who could connect with their kids? And so they began to develop a more regional perspective on things that are happening around the world, but also affect us here globally or locally. And that's how the kernel began. I noticed it particularly when Miss Yord was hired this summer and coming in, and we had to really address, like, what does world language look like at STEM, and we began to talk about this, and her passion for the work made it seem like the absolute right time to get this work on paper and be able to offer it to all middle school students that want this as either an alternative or an addition to their world language portfolio.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Dietz.
Are there similar courses like this in other districts, or is this kind of a first?
I can answer that. I think around the country there's a major push for global education. You certainly see that through the International Baccalaureate, which some of you may be familiar with. The International Baccalaureate has a high school diploma program, and it has an early and primary years diploma program. Those courses include these 4 pillars of learning throughout. Just recently, in the past 3 years, the state of Wisconsin has adopted global education standards, and as a result, the Global Education Achievement Certificate and the Seal of Biliteracy came from places like that. So we are looking at ensuring that our kids have adequate experience and opportunity with these 4 pillars that you see in the continuum, not only in this class, but throughout all of their classes. I think that some of the changes we've had in curriculum here in the elementary and secondary are poising us to be able to achieve these goals and not require specific courses, but allow kids to have many different entryways.
It also appears that this course would have several components of personalized learning, which we previously heard about. And any special way that you would promote this new course to students so that they might take a second look at it or a first look at it?
Just in the catalog, I think that, and ensuring that the students know their options. Say this is going to be a semester-long course, so that might be entice them to want to take it and really go deep into.
We've had an opportunity also to meet with all of the school counselors at the middle school. All of our world language teachers are aware of what the course is and or have had a hand in helping us to prepare the vision for the course, so they are behind it. The school counselors are aware of the course being offered, so we're hoping that our kids, when presented with an elective, will have more opportunity.
So, thank you.
Ms. Ranchik?
A couple years ago, I had an issue with our AP biology books being basically just one perspective. And the kids weren't challenged as AP students to be able to have a multiple views on things and then create their own view on that. But that's what this is doing. But I just didn't know where it was coming from, and let me read you the 3 things that I did underline. How can looking at global issues through multiple perspectives impact solutions? So I had underlined how, what. And another one was students will investigate local, regional, and global issues utilizing multiple resources. And then I wrote, like what? And then it says students can pose a broad question on a current local, regional, or global issue and use evidence from multiple resources. And I said, like what? So there's a lot of things I write, good, okay. I'm always taking notes, excellent. There's a lot of those in there, but the 3 times the question was, where are they getting it? And so I'm glad that you said that, because I didn't read that in any of these, where the text is coming from, where they're gathering that from. So that very much eases my mind. And to know that they're getting a broad range of that is exactly what I would want for my own children and all the kids in Waukesha. So
As we develop our syllabus, right now we're just thinking, brainstorming of themes that we can present to the students for possible research topics. As we develop our syllabus, we'll be defining all of that resources and what are we going to use, and we can always come back and give you an update once the curriculum is fully developed, or the syllabus.
Thank you. And thank you
give you
for all the
some
work.
examples. Yeah.
Thank you for all of this. It's not like it's going to be perfect and we're just going to go, great. There's going to be questions, so thank you for being patient with us.
Just a quick question. Do we have a similar course at the high school level?
The closest course at the high school level is going to be the dual language seminar, the AP dual language seminar that we approved last month. And while that is a dual language course, meaning it is taught in Spanish for our students, there is no reason why we couldn't have an AP seminar that was taught in English. We just don't, we're not there yet. But certainly that would be an opportunity to continue to grow and develop a cohort of teachers that were willing to offer that course so that students would have the opportunity to pretty much develop their personal interests. I can say from my limited knowledge of the West Trek opportunity, that is a course which is an elective that allows students to get into inquiry. While I'm not sure of their structure and framework, I can tell you with all certainty that the AP seminar framework that we will run as a dual language seminar is very, very skill-based, because the skill is the content. The topic is student-dependent. So it will definitely be taken to a whole nother level at the high school, which I expect will expand.
Do you think it would expand outside of the foreign language department?
Oh,
or
yes,
into-
absolutely.
The class sounds almost like a cultural geography course.
It depends. It could be cultural geography. It could also be water sciences. We had a recent request from STEM to have contact with a woman I know who works for the State Department in water sciences. She's a water engineer, and she's from this area, and she's doing a lot of water projects down in Guatemala. I mean, it could be just about anything you could
Right.
imagine.
Right, but it's, culture is in the title, not water. So it could be,
Getting
you know,
clean
it could-
water
it could
to a
be-
village requires
well,
a
yeah, but it could
cultural
also be
broker.
about how arms are shipped into Sudan, South Sudan to, you know,
Absolutely.
so.
So I think anything with communication is going to require an analysis of culture and perspective and the factors that have led people to have the perspectives that they have, how their culture impacts it, how the resources they have or don't have impact. So yeah, it's very robust. Again, what we've tried to do is take a course that's already kind of happening and make it less of a kind of and put some structure around it so we have some deliverables and we have some resources for teachers to do the best that they can to give it a body. And of course, extend it to the 3 other sites.
And moving into the high schools.
I think eventually
Hopefully.
the name might be like the AP seminar.
Right.
So we'll keep working on that.
So again, we're finding that this is a process that the students are going to gain, right?
Yes.
Where are the issues going to come from? That was a concern of mine. Who's going to decide on what issues? Or is each student going to do his or her own?
I can share the example from the high school. The teacher has to select certain texts that are used to teach the skill,
Yes,
right?
right.
When the child or the student applies the skill, the child is going to have more voice in the resources that he chooses or she chooses to be able to apply the skill. So while a teacher might choose something on Russian ballet, that doesn't mean the entire class is going to be studying Russian ballet. It simply is the text that she might use or the media she might use to exemplify how to compare and contrast, how to form questions, how to look at credible resources versus non-credible resources, why this, why not this. So that's kind of where we're at with that. As Jennifer mentioned, the idea is to keep it somewhat current, and as events change and are fluid, the thing that is most calling to students is something that they will have context for. It's certainly not limited to that. I think one of the things that we could say is that as we know what these resources are, we could that would be communicated. It wouldn't be something that would be under the table.
Well, this curriculum development was phenomenal. I mean, there wasn't much that you left out as far as process and, product will, of course, come, but I just thought it was very, very well developed, and I thank you for your hard work on this, because writing curriculum is not a quick and easy thing to do, so.
Especially when there's no textbook.
That's right, there's no textbook, right? Right, and you'll use multiple materials, not just a textbook, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's likely to be speeches and lots of media and things like
Right.
that.
Primary and secondary sources.
Right,
which is
right,
definitely-
right. Well, we just want to, know that there's a concern about the issues. What issues, is it teacher-developed issues? Is it issues that kids are bringing from home? What is it? But I understand it's more of a process, and yes, it's going to be about issues, but process is the most important thing. Is that correct? Great. Okay, anything else? Oh, you're to be congratulated for how very, very hard work. This is a big deal. When did you start working on this?
It's September. beginning of the school year, September, first month.
Well, no, you really worked hard on it. So thank you for your efforts, and thank you for your vision in offering this for our students. I think it'll be wonderful for kids to start thinking about those things and discussing those things. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the curriculum as presented, approval of middle school global education course. Is there a second, please? Second, okay. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the middle school global education course. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 5-0. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Okay, takes us into the next middle school topic. Jody?
All right, we're going to move from being globally educated to be physically educated. So Wendy and Dan are here for that proposal.
Good evening. We're here tonight to ask the board's approval of the physical education, wellness physical education course that we talked about last month. And so you have two pieces in front of you. You have the course syllabus UBD, but then on top you should have an odd even year. This is the Cliff Notes version, which Wendy will walk you through and answer your questions in regards to what this wellness class is gonna look like in comparison to the traditional PE class.
Hello. Just as a reminder of what we kind of went over, I'll make it brief though, from last month. The idea behind doing the odd, even, 7, 8 courses is twofold. One is to give the students a little more of a flexibility within their schedule so that they are able to take other courses that would, under other circumstances, conflict with the requirement that they have, their 7th and 8th grade physical education experience. So by doing the 7th and 8th, now we have opened up the amount of space available for them to choose other electives that might be of interest to them. In addition, we've had some of our teachers, Laura over at Butler and Meg over at Horning and Taylor at Les Paul, have been working on putting together the Lifetime Wellness Physical Education course. And the idea behind that is to also give the students a different way to meet the DPI requirements for physical education and give them somewhat of a more lifetime-based, wellness-based physical education experience as opposed to the traditional FIAT experience. Some of that is a trickle-down from the changes that we made last year at the high school level. And the feedback that we're getting on that has kind of prompted this as well. So there's a couple factors that led us to putting this together. So in the Cliff Notes version, what we've done is we've kind of broken down, because the DPI has different things that they have as for a quality physical education program that would need to be included in what they expect the program to look like. And the way that things are written in the DPI, and by using our SHAPE, which is our national, kind of our governing body, so to speak, the Continuum and some of the performance indicators that are listed there are listed to give us a lot of flexibility. So it's not necessarily that you have to teach this sport, this sport, this sport. There are skills associated with it, but you can meet those skills in a variety of ways. So what we'll be doing to ensure that we're meeting those standards, so the students have the ability to take this course as either an elective or as their chosen physical education course for the either 7th and or 8th grade year, is to meet all the DPI requirements. And by doing so, we've kind of put down on the sheet that for the traditional type of games, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be using non-traditional, so they are going to be going away from any we'll call them traditional sports, into some of the non-traditional games that are out there. And by doing those games, we are able to meet, and the activities meet the different categories: target, net wall, invasion, games like that, but we're going to be doing it in a different manner. We're also going to be putting those things together in an odd year, even year, so the experience that the students get if they would choose to take the course as a 7th grader and an 8th grader will be different. You will still meet what the DPI needs you to meet. However, the experience that the students get will be different. As you go down, a lot of the big differences will be in the approach away from traditional sports and into more individualized wellness or individualized lifetime physical education experiences, and also the amount of health-related fitness activities that are going to be added. There's a list of some of the things that they're going to be incorporating into their courses. There will be a little flexibility because of different space that might be at the different schools. So there might be a little bit of a differential there, but these are the ideas that they are going to be incorporating. So they're going to be doing things like Taibo, yoga. They're going to work on some stress management techniques, but they're going to do Pilates, do some CrossFit things. So they're going to be incorporating a lot of those in. Taylor, who is over at Les Paul, is in the process of getting certified through the Yoga Alliance. So she's going to be bringing a lot of that into our program. And the other things that we're doing is outdoor adventure. We're going to add more of the outdoor adventure activities as we develop the program, because again, those are a lot of times lifetime, and they put a little bit of a different emphasis on what the students are learning and being able to engage in. And then the rest is obviously down there, will continue on as well. Following that, just kind of listed how the traditional 7th and 8th grade will also be the regular PE, we'll call it. We'll also be going on an odd year, even year format, so we'll be dividing the activities. So again, a student could choose to take that as a 7th and an 8th grade, but they would get a different experience depending on the year that they took the course. And then it goes down again to the health-related activities that are on there. The way it'll be set up, since we're making sure that we're going to be hitting all the DPI requirements, is a student could bounce between the two. They could choose to take the lifetime wellness class as a 7th grader, and then the more traditional PE class as an 8th grader. They could take the wellness-based one, 7th and 8th. They could double up and take them as electives as well, taking the 7th, 8th grade Phy-Ed class and the 7th, 8th grade wellness Phy-Ed class as a requirement, and they could also, if they would choose to do that as an elective, they could. So it gives a lot of flexibility for scheduling, also for the administrators and the selections the students will be able to make.
Okay. Ms. Blanchett.
Thank you. This looks super fun, all these options for them. I just have one question, so thank you for all of this. Did you ever think of trying to incorporate self-defense so that kids would know that?
That is actually something that we want to put into here, but when we created this, we didn't want to put down something that we weren't sure was going to be able to be in, and we're kind of investigating kind of a growth pattern of what we want it to look like as we go, but we didn't want to put it down until we were certain that we would have the people trained to teach that, because that's not something we just want them to kind of pretend they know what to do. We would like to make sure we have somebody fully trained prior to doing that, but that is definitely something that was part of our conversation as we would move the course forward and tweak it as we go.
Excellent. I've been approached a couple times by just parents or just people from our community asking, do our kids know this? And I didn't want to say that, you didn't come up with a ton of different ideas for them to do, but...
No, it's definitely something, but it requires a specific training set before we'd be comfortable putting it in until we get a teacher fully trained to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Baumgarten.
They said last month, this makes too much sense. So first of all, I got to ask you, where did you come up with TCHOUKBAL?
That's not me. I didn't make that one up.
I thought it was a typo.
Chook ball. No.
It exists. I looked it up.
It does. Yes, it
How do you
does.
pronounce it?
Chook ball.
Chook ball.
What is it?
I have no idea.
What is it?
It's like it's considered an invasion game, and you don't really play defense. It's really complicated to explain. When it gets going, it makes sense, but it involves like crossing, given areas, but you're not really playing defense. So it's a ball movement type of a game.
Okay.
I would like to move for approval of I gotta get the right terminology, and I lost my place. Of the new PI-Ed program for middle schools.
Okay, is there a second, please?
Second.
Any further discussion, comments, et cetera? Okay, I would just like to ask something. If a student decides to take the 7/8 wellness physical education course, as you
Yes.
have indicated here, does that satisfy the requirement for 7th grade and 8th grade FIAD?
No.
No. Okay.
The DPI, you need to take it in 7th grade.
That's what I thought.
And in 8th grade. So that's
Okay.
why we have the AB curriculum. So if they chose that particular pathway, they would be able to stay in that pathway 7th and 8th grade if they chose to do so. And if they would choose to go a different route, they could take it 1 year and take the more traditional PE course the second year, or vice versa.
Okay, and I'm assuming that the FIAD instructor in the buildings is going to oversee this and work with the students accordingly, right?
Oversee the course selection?
No, oversee the students involved in the various activities.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yes, the instructor will be running each of those classes, yes, depending on course sign up.
And we have people already that are very invested in wanting this class to be successful because they really believe strongly in the wellness and personal individualized fitness approach. So we have over at Les Paul, we have Taylor, and she's the one who's going to be yoga certified through the Yoga Alliance. We have Meg over at Horning, who's new to our district, but she's also done curriculum writing with the DPI. And she's also taught outdoor adventure classes at her former district. And Laura over at Butler, who was a real push behind developing this. And she's actually had 2 presentations. She was selected to present 2 different things at the National SHAPE convention this year. So we've got a good group.
So everything herein will be in the class? Okay, just need to know that. All right, yes.
Same question I had for the last school. Do we offer something like this, the lifetime wellness in the high school?
The high school has, for freshmen, they have the 2 choices as they get in as a freshman. They have the more field and court, and then they have the more individualized, personalized fitness approach. So that as freshmen, they have that, and then they also have like a lifetime fitness course as another elective. So they also have this, plus some of the things that are in here, like the Pilates, the yoga, things like that, that is available in the Trends course for the high school.
Okay, and what would be the orienteering course?
The orienteering, that's like compassing and
Teach them how to use a compass.
but you could do that, but you can also incorporate it with fitness, so that they have to do fitness activities from point A to point B and do different things like that. Yes.
I know that a local district has a FIAD course called Lifetime Pursuits, which is a lot of stuff that you would do your entire life, biking, water sports and stuff like that. So.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, it's moved and seconded that we approve the middle school 7th and 8th grade lifetime wellness physical education course. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-1. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate this. Interesting. Okay, Jody, want to take us into the overnight field trip requests?
Favorite part.
Yeah.
Overnight trip request for the board's consideration. I'll just review, most are state bound, so just to review, we have the South and West cheer competitions in Wausau. We have the South Debate in West Bend, South Ceramics in Dodgeville. The South Global Travel Tour this year is to Europe. This is the same advisor at South, Melanie, who took a group last year. So they're in their second year of going through this comparable company in terms of the Europe tour. And then West High School's drama trip to New York.
Okay, any questions, comments? Again, Stacy, everything was perfect. Perfectly done. Every question answered, every aspect was complete, so, thank you. Okay, I'll give a motion then to approve this.
I move approval of the overnight trips as presented.
Okay, second? Second by Greg. All right, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the overnight trip requests as presented. All those in favor,
Oh, wait a
respond.
minute, we have to have a discussion.
Don't have to.
Yes, we do. Read your book.
Any
I have a
further
question.
discussion? Yes.
It's not really a question. I will put in my always caveat on the trip to Europe. It is not 2019, so there's some time before that will happen. And the caveat is always, we have to make sure we are maintaining a safe environment over there before we let this be final. And we've done that in the past, and I think it's important we continue to do that.
Okay, any other comments? Franchek,
Thank you. I just have a comment about fundraising, and I didn't
About
know-
what?
Fundraising, and it didn't fit in anywhere other than here. We were at an event, and it was at a different school, and they had, for one of their fundraisers, they had baskets, like a silent auction, and there was so much money because it was a basketball, what is it, like a junior program for the black shirts or whatever. And it was at another school, but I can't tell you how many tickets were sold. And so I didn't see anybody doing any of those things. Like, let's say we have an event here at one of our schools. Can't a school that's fundraising have something like that? And it doesn't have to be candy bars, car wash. It can be random
Yeah.
things.
that'd be fine. Anything else?
Okay.
Okay. All right, this is an action item, so we need to have a vote. All those in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you, Stacy, for making sure that these are always well done. Okay, Waukesha Transition Academy. Take that in, Jody.
Kathy Miller, you ready back there? Come on up. Thank you for your patience. We're going to reintroduce Patty Hubble, and it's my pleasure to introduce Kathy Miller. It's going to take you on a wonderful presentation today around technology at the Waukesha Transition Academy.
That's right. So Kathy Miller is one of our teachers over at WTA, and that's our program for students who are 18 to 21 with special education needs. When iPads came into our schools, Kathy embraced that wholeheartedly, and so seriously that she's actually been identified as an Apple Distinguished Educator due to her innovation and her creativity and her hard work. And when you get to see what she has developed with her students for their personalized learning toward their future goals, you will see why.
Well, that was a great introduction.
I thank you for your invitation. As I tell young adults that they need to step out of their comfort zone, so do I, and so I'm here tonight. Thank you. These are the advisors that help make WTA what it is, and each of us, do different things, and I'm just excited to share part of our journey with you. Years ago, we had access, and we were very fortunate to have a bank of laptops. And young adults that had reading difficulties or writing difficulties or difficulty moving, they were completely dependent on us. So we spent a lot of our time chasing them, trying to get them to complete their work, or at least pretend that they were interested in it. And then Jody Landish and Brian Yearling offered a collegial study where I learned that frustration was a gift I was not giving to our young adults, that everybody's path and product could be different, and not only was that okay, it actually enriched our learning environment. And then another big lesson was learning was never done until we had done reflection. And learning to reflect was quite a process for all of us. We were included in the Wave 1 rollout, and as we discovered, change was a process, and we came up with some pretty creative ways trying to cling to what we knew before we decided that being in Wave 1 gave us the opportunity to be leaders for the first time in many young adults' lives. They didn't have to be the follower, they could set their goals. A few weeks after rollout, one very quiet young man brought up a topic that he wanted to study. And when I asked what he wanted to do with that information, he said he wanted to build a website. After a few moments of initial panic, thinking, could we, should we, how would we, I said, why can't we? And that moment we redefined what we do. And there are pictures up there of the website, which we keep live, because he checks in on it every now and then, years later. Learning about the importance of connecting with experts. We had Jen Wimmer come in as our young adults were just beginning to blossom, and she talked with them and put them through their paces. Shortly thereafter, Patty came to collaborate with the young adults and asked them why they needed me, if they were doing all of this on their own, and they said, we don't need her, we want her as our collaborator. And that was truly a humbling moment. Later, Brian Yearling, Steve Schloman, and Dale Van Kuren came to collaborate with the young men, and that is when we had magic happen. As the gentlemen left, the young adults were really emotional and overwhelmed. And these are the statements that they shared with me at the time. They saw me, looked at me, not my disability. They listened to me, what I was saying, they heard me. I really knew what I was talking about. My whole life I wanted this feeling. I worked so hard, this is so worth it. And it's of great import to know that shortly thereafter they said, Miller, come on, we gotta get going on QR codes. It wasn't a day-long celebration, they knew they had work to do. Jody brought a group of teachers from North shortly thereafter, and in young adults' minds, that's the day they became leaders. They were able to teach a teacher something that they didn't know how to do. And that is, one of the most powerful things for them, a teacher that knew one of the young adults said, I didn't even know he spoke much. He had been in her class and hadn't had a lot to say. They've gone on to present at Waukesha 1 and in support in the hands-on learning area with varying degrees of success and still not quitting. Young adults become more independent through collaboration. Peers will step in and help, support. I don't need to do that. And they do it not looking for praise or for recognition, but because that person is their team member. And one young woman wanted to complete a task, and so two of the young men stepped in and they made sure that she was able to do that. And then they continued the conversation with her, not around her. And it's just what we do. Having a professional collection of artifacts, as teachers began collecting artifacts for EE, young adults began collecting their professional artifacts. And we've used websites, shared folders, and currently we're using Book Creator to showcase young adults' professional learning and their different artifacts. For most young adults, that is an object of great pride, and they enjoy sharing that with families. We make sure that they're able to take all of their materials with them, their books and their videos and their photos when they exit. One group of young adults, in fact, advocated to create their own cookbook. They wanted to know how to do breakfast items, and so we had a seminar around that, and we have them in video and them talking through and reflecting on what they did and what worked. And several of the young adults still use them, even though they've been gone for a while. Young adults are beginning to explore their creativity and their interests. Young adults have begun podcasting, even though they are painfully shy. Brian Yearling was able to observe them last year, and the young adults were struggling to communicate with him. As soon as you put the mic in their hand, off they went. Planning videos and building video games. One young adult built a video game for their 3-year-old sibling because he knew it looked like a game that she could play. Stop motion is a favorite, as well as green screening. We accept that we will fail without being a failure, and that perfection is the enemy of being finished. One of the most powerful parts of our devices is that their neighbor, their sibling, their cousins all have the same device. And young adults can now teach and support other people. They don't stand out anymore. They are part of something larger than themselves, and they are active participants and leaders. If you talk to any of the young adults that I've worked with and ask them if a picture that they've used is labeled for reuse, they can tell you. And along the way, they've discovered that taking their own photo is not only easier, but it's a lot more fun. We have many young adults that have discovered passions in photography, editing, and videography. And that's something that they can take into their adult life. And if they're lucky, they could actually have a paying hobby at some time. When young adults lead their learning, they end up in some pretty amazing places. One young adult wanted to create a spreadsheet that would calculate batting averages. And he was able to do that. And he kept the season total on the bottom, and that was the part that gave him the most trouble. Writing a Google form and sending that out and getting data, and then working with that data and reporting it back. Collecting Twitter data and having the Twitter data try to lead tweets that would maybe receive more feedback. They don't do math, but they were willing to work with our Twitter data. One of the most powerful uses that I see with the iPads is communication. And young adults are very creative in expressing themselves, and we try a number of different apps that are available to us. Emojis we even use for several young adults, and they will string them together to do independent reflection. They don't want us to help, they don't want a voice type. They will use emojis, and that's very powerful. Young adults that were content to be silent are now sharing their voices with us and with the world. Patty Havel connected us with the Early Risers Kiwanis, and they have been providing iPad scholarships for several young adults each year. And for the last 2 years, we have participated in their ice cream handout on the 4th of July. So it's a wonderful connection. We have a Twitter account and a blog, so young adults can explore social media I like the safety nets, and that way then they can also connect with their families. Families can quickly see what it is that we're doing and ask better questions at home. We participate in global online conferences. If it's open to me, it's open to the young adults, so they get to hear the same information that teachers are using, and they're always excited when they know what the topic is and what their expertise is. Twitter challenges is another favorite for them. We find those online, and they can be active participants. Their pride and their fearlessness increases every time they have a favorite or a retweet or a reply. Collaborating with experts within the district has engaged learners to dig deeper into their interest and develop the vocabulary of the topics, and Consequently, my vocabulary is greatly increased as well as we learn together. While they may use their devices in the future for organization and communication, the real power comes from the skills that they have learned using their devices. Finding their professional voice, collaborating, embracing frustration, and discovering that they have grit are just a few of the skills that they'll carry into their adult life that they've learned using their devices. This is a message that a young adult shared with me a bit ago as he exited, and it's something that I reflect on almost daily. I wish I could be as eloquent as he was, expressing my thanks and gratitude for being included in this wonderful journey that we've taken, changing our lives and the young adults' lives as well.
Any questions for Kathy?
I would just like to say,
We gotta catch our breath.
yeah. I have visited the program, Kathy. You know I was there not too long ago.
Right.
And I go every year because I walk away with such a wonderful, wonderful feeling of accomplishment that our school district does these wonderful, wonderful things for this particular population. You do a phenomenal job and make them, as successful as they can be. I wish everyone could come over. They're located over at White Rock. And I would encourage everybody to go and see the wonderful things that are going on there. I walk away very impressed. In fact, last year, I used to go over there just because I used to get the cookies.
I know.
The homemade cookies. So, thank you for all you do. It's a phenomenal program. Now, are the students in there strictly Waukesha School District kids?
At this time, yes.
They are, okay. Okay, Mr. Baumgart.
Yes, thank you. This has been very important to us.
Yes.
I know that we asked a question, and I think this is open. Legitimately, I can say this. We asked a question as a board of Todd one day of helping us understand how technology has been making a difference, or is it just fun? And this is the second or third opportunity we've had to see it used in an assistive manner. And that has been very important for us to see that, and I appreciate you bringing this to our attention again so that we can see something we probably didn't anticipate, to be honest with you, 4 or 5 years, whenever we started this parade. I doubt if we really thought seriously about the difference it made to those students you're talking about.
Right.
So thank you so much for that.
There questions or comments? Yes, Jody.
I should have written this out because it would have been really good and great. But I've known Kathy since North High School, and I was over there again last week. And I just want to commend you because the reason our students are getting the experience is because what you and your colleagues have put together. There's not one time when I'm in Kathy's classroom where she's not modeling risk-taking behavior.
Yep.
She's not modeling humility,
Yep.
graciousness, high expectations.
Yep.
And I hear it every time I walk in, and I hear it even when I turn the corner and don't go in. So thank you for what you do. Just proud to work with you, so thank you.
Thank you for providing the opportunities.
Thank you for that, Jody. It was wonderful to say that to her because it's so true. Thank you so much. Please let us know, if you want us to come over and see something specific, please let us know. But otherwise, just a visit any day, anytime.
Yep, you are always welcome.
Yes, yes. A visit anytime, any day is really worthwhile. So thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. It's a wonderful program.
Thank you.
Okay, our last agenda item, student achievement update.
All right. And now, from the virtual reality, we will introduce eAchieve
Patient.
Principal and eAchieve Associate Principal. Thank you for being here. We're so excited to hear your presentation tonight. Thanks, Rick.
You're welcome. I just need to connect here.
You were behaving very nicely.
Oh, thank
Sitting
you.
and listening.
Thank you, that's what I was looking for. Let's see here.
I'll just start by saying, as you know, eAchieve is our virtual academy. It provides an online learning environment for students who, for a variety of reasons, need something different from traditional school experience. And the student achievement discussion that you'll hear tonight really exemplifies the work that the staff and the leadership in the school has done year after year, trying to constantly improve, innovate, bring new perspectives to how they do their teaching to increase student outcomes. We have Rick Nettesheim, the principal, and Jason Smith, the assistant principal of eAchieve, and I'll let them go ahead with their story.
Okay, we're going to start this evening with some data, and I'll cover the bulk of that and dig into that a little bit. And then we will talk about, so what does the data tell us, and what are our next steps based on what the data is telling us. And a lot of it is the plans that we've already started. So I'd like to start with a slide that shows our map data from this September. So this is some of the most fresh data that we have. And when we administer the MAP test, we are looking for their college and career readiness in math and reading. And you'll notice that there are two columns there. One is new. That's for students who are new to the school this year. And then the next column is returning, meaning those that were with us last year and are with us again this year. The most striking, there's a couple of really striking points about this data, I think. First of all, under the new column, it really reflects the student that is arriving at our doorstep and the skills that they have when they arrive at our doorstep. And in math, this year, only 30% of our new students were on track to be college and career ready, and 53% were on track to be college and career ready in reading.
Can I interrupt?
Yep.
It would help us, when you're looking at that, either of those numbers, are you talking about across the spectrum of grade levels?
Oh, yes. This is data from 5th grade through 10th grade.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then when you compare that to the returning column, we see a jump in their college and career readiness. That tells me a couple of things. That tells me that we're doing some things right. To take students and move them along so they are making progress. The other thing that it shows me, though, is that we still have quite a ways to go. And we'll be talking more about that on the last slides, some of the things that we've been doing to help move, especially in the literacy area. So I think it paints a really interesting picture in terms of looking at that fairly fresh data. Yes?
It would be interesting to see that data on a per grade level.
I have that and can certainly provide that in a Friday update, for example. Yeah, absolutely, because I have it. I just didn't include it in the slide. Sure. Mm-hmm. The next slide is our ACT composite scores compared to the other, the 10 biggest virtual schools in the state and also the state of Wisconsin and the district. So eAchieve is the one with the red arrow underneath it, and these are the other 9. eAchieve would be the 10th biggest virtual schools, although eAchieve is the second largest virtual school in the state. So you can see the comparison for ACT composite scores compared to the district and the state. The district and the state. And you'll notice we're right there at the top, and we have been consistently at the top for many years. This little black number at the bottom of the column simply tells you how many students were included in that calculation, which I think is also important to note. Because that you can again get a good estimation of the size of the school as you're looking at those numbers.
Why would one school have 199 and it's not a big school, is it?
That's K-12's WEVA out of McFarland, and they're about 2.5 times the size of our school.
Oh, okay, that's
Yep.
right. The chart is how they're performing. Thank you.
Right. So
I get it.
they're out of the 10 biggest, they're one of the lowest performers.
Interesting, yes.
All right. There's a lot more colors to look at on the next slide, but I'll try and break it down for you. This next slide is showing the data from last year's Aspire test. Now, the Aspire test is the statewide test given to 9th and 10th graders. It's the precursor to the ACT test. But this is a state mandated test for 9th and 10th graders. And you can see it's broken down by subject area: English, math, reading, science, and writing. And the colors mean there's 3 years represented for each of these subject areas. The blue means that they are exceeding projections to be college and career ready. Green means, and these are percentages, so 28%, for example, back in 2015, 33% last year were ready for college and career if they keep on that same projection. Yellow means they're close to being ready, and red means they're in need of support. The thing that strikes me most about this chart is how the red decreases in most cases each of the 3 years. Again, that tells me that as we continue to work with our teachers and provide training in instruction, in math and literacy, and the teaching of science skills and writing, that it is making a measurable difference because we can see improvement over time. Again, just like the MAP data, it also shows that we still have room to grow. And we're going to talk a little bit in just a few minutes about what some of those plans are and some of the things that we're doing and have been doing to see that kind of growth.
Grade again, is this 8th and
So this is 9th and 10th
9th and
grade.
10. Okay. Thank you.
The next graph I'll show you is a very similar graph, but this is now for the forward test, which is the state mandated test for 3rd through 8th graders. And the results, and it only has 2 years of data instead of 3 because the forward test has only been used for 2 years. And the results are a little bit more mixed on this one. It goes up a little bit from 1 year to the next, or down a little bit from 1 year to the next. One of the things that we're continuing to do, as you may recall, our elementary program is a fairly new school, and it's really a very unique school, even in the virtual space. And we're continuing to refine our practice there, and so we're not the next slide, but the one after, we'll talk about some of the things we've been doing in elementary to continue to make improvements in our students' performance and achievement. The last slide that I'll show you, to me, is particularly interesting because I really think it paints a very interesting picture of the work that we do at eAchieve. The DPI has a rating system called the Dropout Early Warning System. And not every student gets a rating, or they haven't received a rating yet, but of the students that do receive a rating, they're given a rating by DPI of either low risk of dropping out of school, moderate risk of dropping out of school, or high risk of dropping out of school. And that's based on a number of different factors that DPI looks at to determine what any particular students should be. So these are the last 2 years of available data from the DPI and their dropout early warning system. In the 14-15 school year, we had 135 students at eAchieve who DPI rated as being moderately or highly at risk of dropping out of school. But the next column, stayed in school, is the real celebration. 128 of those students that DPI had determined were moderately or highly at risk of dropping out of school, 95% of them stayed in school because of their enrollment at eAchieve. The next one down is just the next year. Again, 87%. To me, that's a tremendous celebration and a nice piece of data to end on before we talk about, so now what? But before we move on to that, any additional questions I could answer for you about the data?
Just, it's curious to me that the initial year, 135 versus 93, that's a huge drop in the population you got that was considered as possibly dropping out of school. Did you know if there's anything different that caused that to change?
No, I noted that as well, and we would need more of a historical record. I don't have anything specific as to why we would see a decline of.
It almost looks like a different population came in.
Yeah, right.
And this
right.
is, again, grade level. What grade are we talking about here? High school level or?
So it's definitely high school, and there are some middle schoolers included in that data.
Okay.
Mhm.
This study is done by DPI based on?
Right.
I don't know. I know
Things like attendance and grades and things like that.
Predecessors.
Yeah, they have a number of different measures that they use.
That's very interesting, though, the result.
Yeah.
How many students would this be out of total? Like the 135, would that be out of 400?
Oh, you're taxing my memory,
Oh, I
but
know, you know.
but the last couple of years, we've been around the between 700, 720 students total. For the last couple of years, that's been pretty consistent. So that's going to be the ballpark for the total population here.
And then, just a quick definition of dropout, that means somebody who hasn't transferred to a different school.
That's correct. Yep.
So we could have
Or they
lost-
didn't graduate from high school. Yep.
We could have lost some transfers, which might have dropped it down to 93.
That's a possibility, yes. Mhm.
And do we track that?
Yes.
We track the students that were on the dropout, the early warning system.
Yep.
And if they were in that population,
Mhm.
15, 16, so you know that.
Yes.
Answer.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or could you tell me what testing conditions exist for a student taking like an Aspire test or a forward test? How does that work compared to?
So that's a great question.
Typical
So,
school.
so in our world, in the virtual world, we canvass the state. Our staff goes out all across the state, and we use public libraries, we use banquet halls, and any other kind of hall that we can rent. And we set up shop there at the facility, and we bring the testing materials with us. We bring Chromebooks with us, and our teachers proctor the test live with the students face to face. And it's quite a logistical goings on, that's for sure. We have one member of our staff that's a big part of her job is to set up all the logistics for all of that, make sure the teachers have what they have, the rooms are reserved, training the teachers and knowing what to do. So
you're saying the teachers are there?
yes, the teachers are there with the students proctoring the test, and that would be true for the ACT test, the Aspire test, and the Forward test. With that, here's the meaty part of the presentation, where we get to talk about so now what? So while there certainly were some celebrations in the data, there was also plenty of room for improvement and growth, and we are very eager to jump into that work and continuing our work to see just how many students we can get to be college and career ready. One of the things that we did a few years ago, about 2.5 years ago, was we conducted an ACT skills audit where we identified, well, these are the ACT skills that any of our high school classes should be addressing for students so that they're equipped with those skills. And then we actually did a crosswalk where we said, so where are these skills actually being taught in the class? And we found that many of the skills were taught, but that there were gaps and holes in other places. And this is still an ongoing endeavor of then plugging those holes and finding out where in our curriculum and where in our courses we need to be beefing up instruction in those skills that were weak or we weren't even teaching it at all. We've done quite a bit of professional development around literacy and math instruction. That's actually one of our school improvement pillars. The next 3 bullet points are our 3 pillars. One is literacy and math instruction and improving our teachers' skills in their ability to help students master those skills. We're also focusing very heavily this year on teachers providing quality, descriptive feedback to students. And then we've also been focusing for a number of years now and are continuing to do so on student engagement. And at this point, I will turn the microphone over to Mr. Smith, who will get into the details about what some of these plans and activities have been.
Thanks, Rick. As you are well aware, doing that type of professional learning is tough work. It's deep work. It's time-consuming work. It's tedious work. And I want to compliment and commend our staff for digging in and doing that work. They've done a fantastic job of being open to new ideas and practicing and field testing and really having a growth mindset about getting better. So I'll just clarify and share a couple of the details around each of these 3 bullet points. To Rick's point about the ACT skills audit, once we did the audit, we needed to spend some time with staff learning what those skills actually were. There's some significant research behind the ACT test around the specific skills that are being tested, and so we needed to build some capacity around what those skills were and then give staff a chance to practice developing lessons with those skill focus areas within their courses. And so the goal was for them to build reading or math specific lessons that were aligned to at least one college and career readiness standard, but also in the context of their courses, as opposed to standalone reading or math lessons. We wanted it all contextualized within their courses. So for example, one of our teachers focused on the specific skill of argumentation, and they did it at the 401 level, which would be like a sophomore level skill. And it asked students to analyze how one or more sentences in somewhat challenging passages offer reasons for or support a claim. And then students were then asked to practice this on multiple occasions within this course so they could build a specific ACT skill. And we believe that providing students the opportunity to practice the specific skills the ACT is assessing is a direct action step to maintaining and increasing our ACT scores. So the second thing we've done this year has been to have our staff explore and experience the AVID critical reading strategies as a common school-wide approach to improving our literacy instructional practices. These strategies are categorized as either pre-reading, interacting with text, or extending beyond the text. And we're doing this to specifically help students develop their critical reading skills, again, within the context of their courses as opposed to standalone lessons. The third thing we've done this year has been a focus with our elementary team. They had a chance a month or so ago to experience the AVMR training, which was new for them, and it's been a complete game changer for them personally and professionally. They can't say enough good things about the experience, and it's making a real difference for our elementary learners in math. And they've also been able to pace some of that learning forward with our secondary teachers who are working with some very low-level learners in our secondary math acceleration course. So that's been a real big win for us. And then also around literacy and math, at the PLC level, each month our secondary PLCs have selected an area of instructional focus, a practice that they want to improve on, either through anecdotal or achievement data. And then they spend a good portion of their monthly PLCs just learning about this practice and developing their capacity. So we call this their deep dive. And each PLC is currently focused on a book study that's helping them to build their learning and capacity around this. Some research says that it takes between 30 and 50 reps with practice and feedback to develop deep skill around a new instructional practice. And so we think that by taking time and going a little slower through this learning will position our teachers to better develop high-quality instruction for students around that specific area of focus. So for example, our social studies department is working on author's bias, science team is working on argument-driven inquiry, English language arts teachers are working on making inferences, and our math electives and world language teachers are working on feedback. So those are their areas of focus. And speaking of feedback, we've also spent some time and are really digging into that this year, and we've done the PD work really using our teacher leader team as leverage. They've been interacting in a book study around high-quality feedback, and then they're taking that learning and then spreading that out to their PLCs. And so what we have each month is our teachers bring examples of student feedback to their PLCs, and then they share those examples, and our teacher leaders facilitate discussion with their new learning to help improve practice. So that's a quick win that we can take and put immediately into practice with students right away the next day. And then finally, around engagement, we took a little different approach. We used our staff capacity. We have a group of experts and many veteran teachers that have been in the online world, and we let them define engagement through the eyes of an online learner. What does engagement look like at a virtual school? And built our working definition. And then we used that definition to then go and look in other teachers' classes to find what does more engagement, less engagement look like, to try to then build our capacity to create more engagement for students. And so that worked very well. And then we also extended that into looking at the personalized learner continuum and trying to see if we could use this new learning and capacity building around engagement to then leverage more efficacy, ownership, and student independence later on. So again, a robust plan, but a plan we're proud of, and I think it's really making a difference.
So just a couple of additional items on the elementary side of things. These would be more structural type of changes as opposed to professional development we're engaging our teachers in. One of the things that we've done this year is we've added leveled texts to all of our elementary units as a way to help students access the knowledge and the content at a level that's more appropriate for them, regardless of what grade they're in. We've also moved away from the original model that we had of a teacher following the student through the grades, and instead went back to a more traditional model. Although many families enjoyed that, we've gone back to a more traditional model of aligning students with teachers' area of expertise. We just didn't find that the payoff of having the teacher follow the student was giving us as much as we. There were definite pros to it. A real strong, good working relationship was developed, but our teachers really are level experts. Kindergarten and first grade versus fourth and fifth grade is very, very different, and so we've got them working right with the teachers that have that area of expertise at that level, and also content area too. We've also increased by 4 times the amount the number of weekly web conferences the teachers hold, as opposed to, and that's that same concept of, instead of kind of a generalized web conference with each family each week, the teachers are now holding one web conference in each of the 4 content areas, math, literacy, science, and social studies, and also music. So we went from 1 weekly web conference to 5 for our students. These are led by the teachers. And then we've also restructured the way plans are conveyed to families in such a way to open up more time for the teachers to be available for live one-on-one instruction with students who may need a little extra help, and mom or dad at home aren't able to help them for one reason or another, or they got stuck on a problem or something like that. So those 4 things are additions, changes to our program this year, and we're very excited to see what kind of results those lead us to. With that is the end of my slides. So I've heard that you might have questions.
Mr. Baumgart.
I don't even know if I have a question, but what I'd like to say is, this was very understandable. I think the way you presented the data to us, and then what specific action you're going to take relative to the data, I found that, very informing to us, and the achievement that you have shown on some of the data and the need for further achievement in other data. I appreciate that. Well done.
Thank you.
How many students do you have?
Right now, we have 730-ish full-time students.
Really?
And another 1,000 approximately students that are taking 1 or 2 classes at eAchieve. Those 1,000 part-time students wouldn't have been included in any of the data I was showing. That would have just been the 730 full-time students.
So a teacher, let's say, who's teaching history, could have maybe 100 students.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep.
But then that would be interesting to provide grades,
Yes, that
you know,
is.
for
it
100
is.
people
Yes.
and, comments as the students go along. Wow. That's
Yep.
that's a lot. That's a lot.
It is. Our teachers are passionate about it, though. They work very hard.
Sure they are. They're, and I was going to say, you have foreign language, right? Everything.
Yes.
Everything. Wow. Questions? Yes. Karen.
That just reminded me of a question. Do you have caps like we would in a traditional classroom, like 25 per class, or?
No.
When our teachers max out to full schedules, we hire more teachers.
Okay, so there can be 200 kids in a class for one teacher?
So there's a maximum that any one teacher can have, yes.
Okay.
But when we get to that point and we need more, we have more students that want to get in, we just hire more teachers.
But it's not that, it doesn't affect the children
No,
because they're,
mm-mm.
okay,
No, we just add more staff
okay.
when we reach that maximum for the teachers.
What's your how many, what's your highest class right now? Is it 100 in a class?
Oh, no. So one of our full-time teachers at the high school level, they will work with 300 students.
That's a lot of students to be responsible for.
It
But
is.
does the delivery of the courses take place here or at our schools? Where do these teachers work out of?
They most of our teachers work out of their homes.
Really?
But the few teachers that we do have that split their time between one of the other Waukesha schools and eAchieve, sometimes they would just work out of their office at one of the other Waukesha schools.
Okay, okay. Questions, comments? Okay. Well, you have to know that this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for students. And we have students from all over the state, correct?
Yes, all over.
The state.
Yep.
It's just amazing. I realize that this is something that's been expanded and other school districts are doing it, but we're kind of the first, weren't we? That,
We were one of the very first.
yes, we were one of the very first to offer this, and I think it's great that some kids, we have to be very honest, just can't make it in a traditional school, traditional classroom. I understand that totally, and what a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for those kids to do it differently and meet their needs more. So I thank you for all of your hard work and for helping these kids. One question, though.
Sure.
Of the kids that are seniors, do you have, what's your graduation rate?
That's a good question. Our graduation rate is around 67%.
Okay. I suppose you're working very hard to get those kids to stay, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. And again, there's no tuition, there's no cost whatsoever.
That's correct.
That's
Yep.
correct, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you
Okay.
very much, both of you, for all you're doing to offer this opportunity. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda, and our next Teaching and Learning Committee meeting will be, would you believe, January 2nd, 2018. So, happy holidays to everyone. Thank you very much.